Happy hauntings, horror fans, and welcome to Megan's Murder Movies. I'm your host, Megan, and this week we are breaking down the 2020 film, The Rental. Super excited to talk about this one. A little spookiness to get ready for possible summer vacations people are taking. So let's jump into a summary. So two couples on an oceanside getaway grow suspicious that the host of their seemingly perfect rental house may be spying on them. Before long, what should have been a celebratory weekend trip turns into something far more sinister. Okay, so now that we have a summary, we can jump into a cast and crew breakdown. So this movie was actually directed by Dave Franco, and then written, like the story and the screenplay were also Dave Franco with a couple other people we'll talk about. But Dave Franco is an American actor, voice actor, and filmmaker. He began his career with small roles in the film Superbad and Charlie St. Cloud. Following a starring role in the 9th season of the comedy series Scrubs, Franco had his film breakthrough as the supporting role in the buddy comedy film 21 Jump Street. Franco has also starred in Fright Night, Now You See Me, and Now You See Me Too. He was in Neighbors, Nerve, The Disaster Artist, and in 2020 he made his directorial debut with The Rental, which also stars his wife Alison Brie, which we'll talk about later on in the cast breakdown. Like I said, the screenplay was also done by Dave Franco and another man named Joe Swanberg, who is an American independent film director, producer, writer, and actor. And he's really known for his kind of micro-budget films, which make extensive use of improvisation, and Swanberg is considered a major figure in the mumblecore film movement. So the mumblecore movement is a subgenre of independent film characterized by naturalistic acting and dialogue, sometimes improvisation, low-budget film production, an emphasis on dialogue over plot, and a focus on the personal relationships of people in their 20s and 30s, which you definitely see a lot of in this film, of kind of the intricacies of the relationships between the two couples. And then I guess Mike Dembski also helped out with the story of this and kind of piecing it all together. So I couldn't find a whole lot about Mike Dembski. It looks like he, is known for being a writer on The Rental. He was also a writer in Uncle Nick in 2015. He was also an ex-playwright from 2008 to 2013. And so just a lot of writing jobs kind of under his belt. So I guess he helped kind of develop the storyline for this film. Now we can jump into a cast breakdown. So first we'll talk about Dan Stevens, who plays Charlie, and Charlie is Michelle's husband and Josh's brother, and then Mina's co-worker. So Dan's an English actor. He first drew international attention for his role as Matthew Crawley in the ITV acclaimed period drama series Downton Abbey, which ran from 2010 to 2012, or he was in it from 2010 to 2012. He also starred as David in the thriller film The Guest in 2014. He was Sir Lancelot in the adventure film Night at the Museum Secret of the Tomb. He was the Beast / the Prince in Disney's live-action adaptation Beauty and the Beast. He's just been in a ton of stuff. He was in Marshall, The Man Who Invented Christmas, and the Russian Eurovision singer Alexander in Eurovision Song Contest, The Story of Fire Saga. And then from 2017 to 2019, he starred as David Haller in the critically acclaimed FX series Legion, and then in 2018, he starred in the Netflix horror thriller Apostle. Next, we'll talk about Alison Brie, who, like I mentioned before, is Dave Franco's wife, but also, a very highly acclaimed actress. So Alison Brie plays Michelle, Charlie's wife. Alison is an American actress, writer, and producer. Her breakthrough role was Trudy Campbell in the drama series Mad Men from 2007 to 2015, and this won her a Screen Actors Guild Award. In 2009, she gained further prominence for her role as Annie Edison in the comedy series Community from 2009 to 2015, and her other notable work includes Diane in BoJack Horseman, and Ruth Wilder in the comedy drama series Glow from 2017 to 2019, and then for the latter, Brie also received 2 Golden Globe nominations, which is pretty cool. As for her television work, she's also been in quite a few films. She was in Scream 4, The 5-Year Engagement, The Lego Movie, Get Hard, Sleeping with Other People, How to Be Single, The Little Hours, The Disaster Artist, The Post, Promising Young Woman, great film, Horse Girl, The Rental, and The Happiest Season. Next, we'll talk about Sheila Vand, who plays Mina, Josh's girlfriend and Charlie's co-worker. So Sheila's an American actress and performance artist. She's known for her role in Ben Affleck's 2012 Oscar-winning film Argo, which is super great Fan also has been on Broadway. She debuted alongside Robin Williams in Bengal Tiger at the Baghdad Zoo. She's worked with filmmaker Anna Lily Arbour on several projects. She was also in A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night, which premiered at the 2014 Sundance Film Festival. She also has an ongoing collaboration with 2013 TED speaker Alexa Meddy. So that is a little bit about Sheila. And next we'll talk about Jeremy Allen White, who plays Josh, Mina's boyfriend and Charlie's brother. So Jeremy's an American film and television actor. He's, most notably Philip or Lip Gallagher in the Showtime drama series Shameless, which is kind of what I recognized him from. White's appeared in several films, including Beautiful Ohio, The Speed of Life, After School, 12, and After Everything. Next, we will chat about Toby Huss, who plays Taylor. Taylor's kind of the man in charge of the rental property. He mentions, which we'll kind of get into in the scene by scene, but he mentions that actually his brother owns the house, so he's not the house owner. He just kind of manages the property for his brother. So that's kind of his role. So Toby is an American actor known for playing Artie in the Nickelodeon series The Adventures of Pete and Pete from 1993 to 1996. He's also known for his voiceover work on the long-running animated series King of the Hill. He plays Con and Cotton. He's also known for his role as Felix or Stumpy Dreyfus on the HBO series Carnival. He also played Josh Bosworth on the AMC original period drama Halt and Catch Fire. And last, we will talk about Anthony Molinari, who plays the masked man or the killer in the film. He's done a ton of stunt work. He's done stunt work in The Dark Knight Rises, The Conjuring, Westworld, WandaVision, tons of different things. He also has had some smaller roles and other stunt roles in Angels and Demons, Now You See Me, Black Mass, Spider-Man Far From Home, Captain Marvel, Bad Boys for Life, and Birds of Prey, the Harley Quinn film. He's been in a lot of really cool things. That's kind of our killer in the film. So now that we've met the cast and the production team and all of that fun stuff and the writers, let's get into some fun facts. So the big one that I have is that this film was actually filmed in Oregon on the Oregon coast, which is where I'm not from the coast, but I'm from Oregon, and it's where I currently live. And this was really big news on social media at the time that Lip from Shameless was here filming a movie. A lot of people had seen him kind of at the coast and suspected that he was filming because he was around for a while, and I had no idea they were filming a horror film. And if I had known, I may have been a little bit more intrigued, but I was kind of good for him, cool, whatever. But yeah, I remember that being very big news where I live, that he was in the state hanging out doing stuff. So the next fun fact is that Dave Franco has voiced interest in doing a sequel, saying that it was the intention from the beginning to leave the ending ambiguous enough that we carry on the story if given a chance. I have a very strong idea for what I would want to do with a sequel. Like I said in the beginning, this is the directorial debut for Dave Franco, and I think that he did an absolutely amazing job. The story is really interesting. I love the characters, and which he also helped piece together, and I think that the directing is super great. The picture itself is really good. So then another fun fact is that Alison Brie is married to Dave Franco. And then Alison Brie also has another connection to a different cast member. She and Toby Huss had actually worked together on Horse Girl, which also came out in the same year, so probably filmed around similar times, either one before and then one after. So, and those are kind of my fun facts. I don't have a whole lot of fun facts about this one. Yeah, it's very straightforward. There's not a lot of cool gore or anything like that to talk about. So of how they filmed different things or all of that stuff. So we can just jump right into the scene by scene. So we start off seeing a really beautiful coastline, the Oregon coast, and then we see this humongous house, and there's this really cool transition shot from we see the outside of the house and we're looking at it to, which kind of an in-person view, to seeing the listing for it on the vacation home rental website. And so it's really cool because it's the same exact shot, but 1 second you're there in person, and then the next second you're seeing the same picture but from a computer screen. It's a really great shot. Whoever's idea that was, if it was Dave's, if it was someone else, editing wise, phenomenal. I loved that little piece. Mina and Charlie are looking at the listing and dreaming about going for the weekend. They're very close together, and Mina's kind of draped over the back of Charlie, kind of like like hugging his back, kind of, with like her head resting on his shoulder. It feels like a very intimate embrace, I guess you could say. Like you wouldn't just do that with any random stranger, kind of be that close to them. So instantly you get the feeling that these two are very close. So they're dreaming about going to this, amazing looking home for the weekend. She's basically telling Charlie, like, fuck it, we earned it. Like, let's just do it. And at that moment, her boyfriend and Charlie's brother Josh comes into the office, which, like, then it kind of pans out and we realize that they're not, like, at their home or whatever, but they're in, like, an office building. So Charlie explains to Josh that they were thinking about getting the house for the weekend for the four of them, Charlie and his wife, and then Josh and Mina. Charlie and Mina want to celebrate closing their seed funding round for their startup. Mina goes to get her coat. Her and Josh are getting ready to leave. And Josh tells Charlie, congratulations about the funding. He's like, hey man, like I've not had a chance to congratulate you yet, but like, that's really awesome. Good job. Mina and Josh leave, and Charlie is at home with his wife, Michelle, kind of talking about the upcoming weekend and talking about Josh. And so Michelle's like in the bathroom, getting ready for bed, like brushing her teeth, all of that stuff. And Charlie's kind of laying in bed looking at stuff on his phone. And so he doesn't seem super into the conversation. He's like kind of there, but not like present. And so Michelle's kind of talking about Josh and how she'd kind of given up on him, but that he's really kind of turned his life around when he started seeing Mina, and he's really turning into like, like the best version of himself, and he seems to be doing really well. And she's like, I'm just really happy to see that. Like, it's great for him, all of that stuff. And Charlie's a bit condescending. He's like, I don't know if 2 night classes is back in school, because she's like, he's working, he's going to school, like, and Charlie just really downplays like the successes that Josh has had recently, especially because then we find out that Josh has like a very, intense anger problem, that he was kicked out of college for almost beating a guy to death, and he actually served jail time for that. And so we're like getting all of this background about Josh, and Charlie definitely seems to feel like he's better than Josh, which, to each their own, but not cool to be super judgmental for family, I guess. I don't know. Spoiler, I kind of think that Charlie's kind of a dick, but that's just me. Watch the film, listen to the podcast, create your own opinion, but that's just my thoughts on Charlie. And so back to kind of their conversation, Michelle's like, well, yeah, maybe it's not fully back in school, maybe he's not doing everything right, but it's definitely a positive influence, and it's good to see him happy. Like, it's important that he's doing well and all of that stuff. Just trying to like give the recognition of like, no, but he is doing good stuff, and that's important to recognize. So next, we see kind of Josh and Mina and how they're getting ready for bed. They have a very playful and fun relationship. They're joking, they're laughing, all of that good stuff. It seems very happy, which, is good, and kind of, I think, what most people want from their relationship. So it's the next morning now, and Charlie and Michelle are picking up Josh and Mina, and Josh is bringing his little French bulldog, Reggie, and Charlie gets really upset. He's like, dude, it's a no dog policy. Like, why are you bringing the dog? I don't want the dog. And Josh is like, I'm not just going to leave my dog for the weekend. Like, he's fine. Like, he's not going to do anything. He's fine. We'll hide him in the car. It's not that big of a deal. And Charlie's kind of throwing a fit about it, and Josh is just like, whatever. Like, I'm not. They have a very kind of just surface level family relationship, I think, like that they don't, like, they care about each other, but it doesn't really go that deep. All of their interactions seem very kind of surface level. So on the way up to the house, they're kind of talking about how Mina was the one who initially requested the vacation home for the weekend, but her request got denied, and so then Charlie submitted one like a couple hours later when they realized that hers was denied and was accepted. Josh is like, I think that the owner's being kind of racist because, Mina is a person of color, her last name is Mihamadi, like, definitely could send up red flags to people who are racist and terrible. Charlie's trying to give the booker, like, the benefit of the doubt. He's like, how many places have you booked? And she's like, well, I've only booked 1. And he's like, yeah, well, I've booked 3, so, that's probably why I was accepted. And it's like, maybe, but Charlie and Josh are kind of disagreeing on the subject, and he's like, is 3 really that much more than 1? Like, who cares? Like, that's, I really think that it just has to do with, like, what she looks like and her name. And Josh is like, let's just give him the benefit of the doubt. Like, not everyone's terrible and out to get you. And Josh is just kind of like, okay, whatever. Next, we see a little driving montage, and they pull up to the house, and Charlie asks Josh to hide the dog. They let themselves in this little, like, front porch area, and, like, try to open the front door, because they're, like, they see that there's another car there, so they assume that the guy's there, but they're not totally sure. So Charlie goes to give him a call, and the guy's standing, like, right behind them. And he makes this, like, kind of condescending comment of, like, well, you just kind of let yourselves in, and it's like, well, this is really only the front porch. Like, we didn't just walk into the house and start, like, making ourselves at home. But, I guess it just came off a little grouchy for no reason, I think. Because it was, it's a nice, glass front porch area. But it's still just the front porch. Like, there's nothing to steal. There's nothing to, break. It's just a front porch. So I don't know why he was so, like, kind of passive-aggressive about it. He seems a little upset, and he's like, I expected you guys, like, over an hour ago, and Charlie's like, yeah, like, sorry, we stopped, we got started a bit later than we wanted, and then we also just stopped for groceries. And Mina's like, oh, like, are you the one that owns this house? And he seems a bit offended. He's like, well, no, I don't. My brother does. I just manage it for him. And she's like, oh, like, I didn't mean anything by it. It just, I was just asking. And, Taylor kind of further explains, like, it's his brothers and all of that stuff. Charlie starts going around and introducing everyone, and after he introduces Mina, Taylor just kind of looks at her and he goes, well, how did you get mixed up with this family? And she's like, what do you mean? And he's like, oh, I didn't mean anything by it. Kind of the same, like, line that he gave to her of, like, oh, I didn't mean it. Like, I didn't mean anything by it. There's, like, very awkward tension because clearly she wants to ask about the booking, but she like, doesn't. So Mina gets upset, and Josh is trying to calm her down. They unpack the car, like, her and Josh unpack the car, and Taylor kind of shows them around the house. He's telling them about the stars. They're, like, on the back porch, and he showed them, like, the hot tub, and he's like, yeah, it's really great to, like, sit here and watch the stars. They're absolutely amazing out here. And Michelle's like, shit, like, I should have brought our telescope. And Taylor's like, well, why, like, who needs a telescope in a big city unless you're, like, peeping on people? You're, like, peeping toms. And he, like, kind of laughs, and everyone else is, like, uncomfortable. And he's like, well, like, I have a telescope. I can bring it by later if you guys want to borrow it. And they're like, no, like, no trouble. That's fine. He's like, no, like, I really don't mind. I should have probably had it up here anyway. Like, it's probably a good thing to just keep here. But, I'll bring it by in a little bit. So Taylor's just getting ready to leave, and at that moment, Mina decides to bring up the request thing. She's like, hey, so, like, I tried to book this place, just before Charlie, and my request was denied, and his wasn't. Like, are you the one who does the bookings for this place? And he's like, yeah, I am, but, like, I don't remember your request. Like, I'm not really sure. Like, he kind of doesn't really answer the question. He just kind of beats around the bush, and then when she kind of pushes him a little bit more, he's like, well, the cancellation policy is, like, clearly stated on the website, so kind of like a take it or leave it, like, if you don't like it, you can leave kind of a vibe is what he's giving off. Mina kind of, I don't want to say that she backs down, but she just kind of, like, accepts that in the moment. She just kind of accepts in the moment that, like, she's not going to get an apology, or, like, he's not going to admit, like, yeah, like, I didn't accept your booking because I'm racist. Like, she's not going to have that moment, so she just kind of is like, okay. Taylor finally leaves, and Charlie and Michelle start unpacking the groceries. However, as Taylor's leaving, he stops and watches them, like, from his car through the kitchen window. Josh and Charlie start making really bad jokes to cheer up Mina, and it works. We see everyone kind of settling in. Josh is out back playing with Reggie, his dog, and the ball kind of goes under the back deck. And Josh has to go find it, and under the house, it's like the house is, raised kind of up really high, so there's a whole, I guess, basement level, or you'd call it, it's almost like a first floor level, though, under the porch, so it's quite a lot of space, and there's this room under the house that has this, like, coated electronic lock on it, and, like, kind of out of place, it definitely feels like. And so he sees that, and he's like, well, that's kind of, weird. And Mina at that moment is walking up because she came to find him, and he jokingly tries to put in like 666 as the lock code. And she's like, this is really creepy. And he's like, how creepy would it have been if that worked? Like, and so then they kind of leave. They're like, not our business, whatever. They all decide to go walk on the beach for a little bit. Mina and Charlie are walking together, and Josh and Michelle are walking together, which, like, yes, that's correct. Like, Mina and Charlie, and then Josh and Michelle, so the couples aren't walking together. Josh opens up to Michelle that he's scared. He's like constantly scared that Mina's gonna leave him because he thinks that she's so much better than he is, and he's like, I just want to be better for her, and I want to challenge and inspire her. Michelle offers support and kind of, I don't want to say suggests, but it's like, it's okay, like, she gets that from my husband. Like, she gets that from Charlie. They're work partners. Like, she just needs you to love and support her, like, emotionally, physically, all of that type of stuff. Like, just be there for her and give her love, because that's, that's kind of the missing piece that she needs. And almost kind of the idea of, like, we don't all have to have the same roles. Like, Josh can't be everything for Mina, because that's not healthy, and Mina shouldn't be everything from Josh. Like, we should be able to find support, like different types of support from different people in our life, because if you're getting your support from one person, like every single aspect of support that you need from just one person, if something happens to that person, you have nothing. Like, and that's super unhealthy. So then Josh kind of turns the question around, and he's like, well, are you like okay that they're so close and they spend so much time together? And she kind of like chuckles, and she's like, no, fuck her, but like, I'm happy that he has someone to be creative with like that. Like, I trust that that's all this is, and I know that like I give him things that she can't, or so Michelle thinks. And so, she's like, but yeah, like, I've like learned to accept it and understand it. And so they get back after their walk, and they see this huge, like, it's a huge telescope in the living room. And Mina's like, this is really creepy. Like, I don't think that he should just be able to come and go as he pleases. Like, we're here now. He can't just like, he can't keep doing this. Like, this is awkward. And they're kind of like, well, he said he was going to do this. Like, I don't think it's super out of line. Like, we had talked about this. He said he'd bring it by, even though we were like, no, like, don't worry about it. We kind of knew that this was a possibility, so I don't know if it's fair to like be upset, you know what I mean? So no one else thinks that this is like really an issue that he brought the telescope over, so Mina kind of like disregards it and just again kind of accepts what's going on. And then they all kind of go about their evening. They start drinking, they have dinner. Michelle is showing everyone this hike that she wants to go on tomorrow that she's kind of planned, and everyone seems really excited. She's like showing pictures, and they're like, oh, it's so beautiful, like, that's awesome. And she's like, yeah, we'll have to leave kind of early so that we're not out there when it's dark, but I think it'll be fun. And then kind of out of the blue, Mina brings up that Michelle has a surprise for everyone. And Michelle's like, oh, like, were we gonna do that today? And Mina's like, yeah, like, just go get it, like, let's show them. And so she goes to get it, and the surprise is drugs. Ecstasy, to be specific. And we also learned that Michelle and Charlie first met on a night out where they were both on ecstasy. Michelle says she doesn't want to do the drugs tonight because she's too tired. She's like, I had a really rough week at work, like, I'm exhausted, and like, I want to be ready for the hike tomorrow, but so I think I'll turn in early, but you guys go ahead, and then tomorrow, just save enough for tomorrow, and we can all get sufficiently fucked up tomorrow, I think is what she says. So initially Mina, Josh, and Charlie are all like, no, like, we'll wait for tomorrow, it's fine. And Michelle's like, no, really, it's okay, just like, save some for tomorrow, but like, you guys have a good night. And so they're all like, well, okay. So Mina, Josh, and Charlie all take some of the ecstasy, and next we see the three of them dancing. Charlie's dancing with Reggie's, like, holding him really close, and Josh and Mina are dancing together, and then next we see Charlie and Josh wrestling. Josh, like, pins Charlie, and Charlie gets all upset, and this whole time Michelle's in the room sleeping. And we see this, like, weird overhead shot from this vent above the bed in the room that Michelle and Charlie are in, and there's a camera view down into the bed watching her sleep. But it's not like the camera recording that we'll later see in the film. It's just like a regular, what you would see in a film camera type angle. So Josh, Mina, and Charlie are out on the deck looking at the stars with the telescope, and Charlie and Josh kind of get into this little spat. Josh asks a question about, like, dinosaurs and cavemen and that sort of deal, and Charlie gets super condescending, and he's like, no, like, do you really think that cavemen and dinosaurs existed at the same time? And Josh is like, no, like, that's not what I'm asking. Like, I was just saying, do you think, and kind of like this hypothetical question, and Charlie's just really purposely trying to make him feel stupid. He's like, no, how many years in between dinosaurs did man start inhabiting the earth? And he's just being a total jerk, and it's like, really? And Josh is getting upset. He's like, you always do this, like, you always try to put me down and try to make me feel stupid. And so then Charlie answers his own question and seems really proud of himself, and Josh is like, yeah, good for you, like, good, congratulations. Josh goes to get another beer, and Mina and Charlie are looking through the telescope, and she starts looking at the coastline, and she's like, yeah, no, I just, like, I'm being one of those, you know, big city peeping Toms, you know, as a joke, kind of referring back to what Taylor had said earlier in the day. And then she tries to play a joke on Charlie, and she's like, oh my god, like Taylor's watching us. Like, I saw his house and he's watching us. So then Charlie looks through the telescope, and he basically plays the same joke back at her. She was totally kidding, and then he's like, oh my god, he's watching us. Like, I think he, like, makes a joke that he has a knife or something, and something like that. And Mina's like, no way. And then, yeah, so they were both just, like, playing a joke on each other, which was kind of fun. Mina and Charlie are talking, and they have this eye contact moment that you'd see in, like, a romantic film, or, you know, like those movies where, you know, they're just like, they hold eye contact and there's, like, all this tension. So they have that eye contact moment. Mina breaks it and says she's gonna go check on Josh, and Josh is basically passed out on the couch. Mina's like, no, come on, like, come enjoy the weekend with me, like, we don't get a lot of time like this. And he's like, he's out, like, drugs and alcohol, Josh is done. She goes back outside, and Charlie's wanting to get in the hot tub, and Mina's like, I don't know, I'm just kind of annoyed now, like, I might just go to bed, I'm, like, irritated. And then she kind of looks at the hot tub, and she's like, you know what, fuck it, like, I do want to get in the hot tub. So they both go to change so that they can get in the hot tub. Mina and Charlie are now in the hot tub, and they're talking, and Charlie starts complimenting her, and they're both, you know, talking about their partnership and how, you know, it's really nice to just be able to trust someone like that and have that, like, comfort in their work and all of this stuff, and how good they feel with each other. And this leads to them kissing, and Mina backs out once Reggie starts barking, and they kind of snap out of the little bubble that they were in, I guess you could say. Mina's like, I'm gonna go to bed, like, I think this is enough. And then at that moment, we kind of get this camera angle from back, like, in toward the back of the property, watching them on the deck. There's somebody watching them, because we hear this, like, heavy breathing, and it's, you know, somebody watching the two of them in the hot tub. Mina's in the bathroom looking in the mirror, you know, clearly shocked that they kissed. She definitely looks like she's regretting it, but it's kind of hard to tell. She jumps in the shower before going to bed, and while she's in the shower, Charlie climbs in with her, and they end up having sex. The next morning, Michelle and Josh are both up and ready for the day. They're getting stuff ready for the hike. They are ready to go, and Mina and Charlie look like crap, and they both end up backing out of the hike. Mina's like, I just feel terrible, like, I'm sorry, and Josh goes to her, and he's like, I remember somebody yesterday telling me, come on, we never get to spend time together like this, like, come on, babe, get up. And she's like, I'm sorry, like, I just can't, like, we'll just call it even, but when you get back tonight, we'll have a great night. And she encourages Josh to go and hike with Michelle because she was so excited, and Mina knew that Charlie was not going to be able to make it because Charlie looks even worse than she does. And Josh is like, no, like, I'll stay back with you and we'll just have a relaxing day, but she kind of guilts him into going, and Michelle's irritated. She's, like, not so bummed that Mina's not going, but she's irritated that her husband was kind of like, I get the vibe that, like, you were so irresponsible, and now we did this for you, like, you two were the ones who wanted to come do this. The only thing I wanted to do was hike, like, it was to go on this really cool hike, and she just feels let down is kind of the vibe that I get from Michelle, which I feel like is very fair. So Josh and Michelle are going to go on this hike, and Mina and Charlie are going to stay back, and Josh is like, hey, can you just look after Reggie? Like, I don't want to take him on the hike. He's out in the back hanging out, like, tied up. Just bring him in a little bit, give him food, keep an eye on him. And they're like, yeah, of course we'll keep an eye on him, no worries. So Mina and Charlie are left to lay in the secrets and lies that they've spun, and they kind of seem to regret what happened, but not really. They have this conversation of, like, you know, that can't happen again, and we can't do that, and, like, Mina's like, I really love your brother, and he's like, yeah, and, like, I love Michelle, and it's just, I feel like they're both kind of saying what they feel like they should say, as opposed to what they're actually feeling, because I think they do actually care for each other, and I think they would prefer to pursue a relationship with each other, but they're just like, no, we'll just keep with what they're doing. Not saying what they did was right because they feel that way, but, like, I feel like this conversation they're having, I don't feel like the words they're saying are genuine, if that makes sense. So on the hike, Josh is telling Michelle about how him and Mina got together. He said that Mina got Josh's number from Charlie after they met at a party, and she, like, went to tell him a joke and I guess messed up the punchline. So she asked Charlie for his number so that she could message him and, like, fix the joke and, like, give the actual punchline. And Michelle's like, oh, that's really cute, like, that's a really sweet, like, kind of how did you, like, meet cute story. And then they're talking about how Charlie and Michelle met, and I guess Charlie had a girlfriend when he and Michelle met and hooked up the night that they were on ecstasy together. Michelle says that she feels bad for Jen, who was the ex at the time, or the girlfriend at the time, and Josh is like, well, Jen did the same thing to the ex before her. And this is when Michelle realized that Charlie kind of has a pattern of overlapping relationships, and Michelle was unaware of this, and it makes her really uncomfortable, and she just kind of stops where she's at, and she's like, I didn't realize that was a thing like that. She's, like, clearly upset that, because I think then the wheels are spinning of, like, so then maybe I should be a little bit threatened by Mina, but then she doesn't want to, all of those feelings when you're not feeling comfortable in your relationship. So Josh, like, instantly feels bad because he wasn't aware that Michelle was unaware, and so he was like, no, like, I'm probably confused, like, I probably forgot, like, the timeline, like, I probably am wrong, like, don't listen to what I have to say. He's, like, trying to make her feel better, but you can see that she's starting to question things. Like, she doesn't say anything, but you can see it on her face that she's like, maybe I don't trust everything that's going on. And then during this moment, we also see the figure watching them on the hike. Again, like, from a ways away, behind trees and stuff. So back at the house, Mina and Charlie are cleaning up a bit and relaxing. Well, Mina's doing most of the cleaning. Charlie's actually napping on the couch. Mina showers again, and while finishing up, she notices what she thinks is a camera in the shower head. She gets Charlie to come check it out, and Mina's like, we need to call the cops. And then they realize that them cheating was caught on tape. And Charlie's like, we can't call the cops, or Michelle and Josh could find out about, like, what happened last night. And Mina's like, I bet it's Taylor, which totally makes logical sense, because it's like, why would a random person who, like, doesn't live in the house or doesn't have access to it put these cameras at? Like, logic would tell you, it's like the Occam's razor, like, the most logical answer or the most logical solution or whatever it is probably correct. So they're brainstorming kind of what to do. Charlie says they should just forget it, and Mina's like, no, we should threaten him. And Charlie's like, if they do that, then, like, if we threaten him, he could definitely show the footage to Josh and Michelle. And Mina's like, we could just find an excuse to leave early. As soon as they come home, like, we'll just figure out a reason to leave. And Charlie's like, no, we can't start telling more lies, because the more lies that we tell, we're not going to be able to keep up with them, and it's just going to cause issues. So at this moment, Josh and Michelle are getting back. They're pulling into the driveway, and Mina and Charlie agree that they'll stay one more night, and leave first thing in the morning like the plan was. They'll just go over the plan. Charlie's like, he's not going to show them to anyone. Like, he'll have them. That sucks, but, the likelihood he's going to start showing them to people is very slim, because then he could get in trouble for having the cameras around. So Michelle gives Charlie the cold shoulder, and Josh feels really guilty. He's, like, watching them kind of argue, and Charlie's really confused because he's like, hey babe, like, how was it, blah blah blah, and she just, like, doesn't say anything and walks right past him, and it's like, ooh, like, yeah, you fucked up, buddy. So Josh is like, I'm gonna shower, and Mina's kind of, like, tries to talk him out of it, but then I think they end up going and showering, or I don't know, he picks her up and carries her off, so I don't know if she showered with him or if she just kind of chilled while he showered. But Charlie checks on Michelle, and she starts asking him about his relationship timelines. Charlie gets really mad at Josh for bringing that up. He's like, of course, like, what the fuck did he lie about? Like, what did he tell you? And she's like, you're actually the one who lied, you know, about it. Like, I don't understand why you couldn't have just been honest. And he's like, you know, I probably was honest. Like, he's like, I'm just confused. And, you know, whatever I said and at the time was probably correct. And, like, I don't remember, it was so long ago. Just kind of like, I don't know, trying to brush it off, really. So they all gather in the living room, and Michelle's like, okay, let's take some drugs. Let's party. Like, all this stuff. But shocker, no one else wants to party tonight. Rightfully so. Michelle gets upset, and she's like, fine, I'll just, like, get high on my own then. Like, fuck you guys. And she's like, I brought this, like, I tried to do a nice thing. And then she just gets kind of screwed over. So I feel like she has a right to be upset. And it's not her fault that her husband cheated with his work partner, and now they're feeling guilty, and so they don't want to take drugs. Like, that's not her fault. Josh goes to give Reggie some food and can't find him, and then we realize that Charlie and Mina totally forgot about him. So Reggie's not tied up in the back anymore. Josh is upset and worried about the dog, which is fair. I would be upset, like super upset, if someone did that to my dog. If I was like, hey, could you watch my dog for a few hours? And they were like, of course. And then they lost it because they were neglectful, not just because, like, oh, the dog jumped the fence, or like, oh, the dog, you know, dug out the backyard, but like, you just were neglectful. Like, that's not cool. So Michelle's feeling good, and she's like dancing around the living room, and she tells everyone that she called Taylor to come fix the hot tub because she went to get in it and it wasn't working. Charlie gets worried, as does Mina, and Josh is like, well, maybe he took Reggie. Like, he thinks that Taylor possibly dog napped him, and Josh just wants his dog back, so he's a bit aggressive, which I think is fair, but we can also kind of see in this moment that Josh has a little bit of a temper, because it's like, okay, like, getting upset isn't gonna help necessarily, but then again, in the moment, it's like, sometimes you don't have control of that. And I don't think he's done anything so out of line just yet that it's, like, crazy concerning, even though we know he has anger issues. So Taylor pulls up, and Josh meets him at the door and asks him about the dog, and Taylor's like, well, I'm confused because you're not supposed to have a dog anyway, but no, like, I didn't take your dog. I've been at home all day, like, watching TV, relaxing. Taylor goes and he fixes the hot tub, and Michelle's so cute. She goes up, and he's like, well, I'm here to fix the hot tub. And she's like, full disclosure, I am very much on drugs and would like to get in the hot tub, which is why I called you, because it's not working. And he's just like, okay. But she's just very cute. So Taylor, Michelle, and Charlie go to the hot tub area, and Josh and Mina keep looking for Reggie. Taylor fixes the hot tub and goes to leave, and Mina runs into him in front of the house when he's, like, getting ready to get in his car. And he's like, I hope you find your dog. The no dog policy is my brother's rule. He's like, don't worry, like, I'm not going to rat you out. Like, I know how to keep a secret. And so, of course, that leads Mina to think that, he's kind of insinuating that he knows their secret about her and Charlie sleeping together. So she's like, hey, like, can I show you one last thing before you leave? And he was like, okay. So she takes him into the bathroom where her and Charlie slept together, and there's the camera. And he's like, oh, like, I bet it's the toilet handle. Like, you really have to hold it down. Like, he's like, I've been meaning to get that fixed, but I keep forgetting about that one. And she's like, if you do anything with that footage, like, we will go straight to the cops. And he's like, I don't understand. And so she shows him the camera and, like, takes her phone out, like, the flashlight, and, like, points it up there. And so he goes to the shower head and looks, and he's like, well, what the heck is that? And she's like, we will call the cops if you show that to anyone. And he's like, I don't know what that is. Like, that's not from me. And he's like, look, I don't know what kind of scam you guys are pulling, but, like, I'll just call the cops myself. And so then Mina, like, basically tries to jump on his back to get his phone out of his hand. And so they're, like, scuffling in the bathroom. And of course, at this moment, Josh walks by the window and sees them struggling in the bathroom. So Josh runs in and just knocks Taylor straight into the shower tub and, like, beats the crap out of him, like, super intense. Charlie and Michelle come running in after they hear, like, shouting, because Mina's trying to pull Josh off of Taylor and, of course, isn't as strong to, like, get him away. So Charlie finally pulls Josh off of him. Charlie follows Josh out, and Michelle checks Taylor's pulse. He's still alive. It's this really cool mirror shot because the camera's directed at the mirror, so you see Taylor in the tub, and you see, like, Michelle checking his pulse, and you see there's, like, blood on the mirror. It's a good shot. Props to Dave Franco. Everyone is now in the driveway, and Mina is quietly telling Charlie what happened, and Josh is trying to cool off. Michelle's like, what the fuck just happened? Like seriously. Mina explains that she found the cameras and that he was filming them. She tells them all about everything. And Josh feels so bad that she felt so uncomfortable because, of course, he doesn't realize that she's only concerned because, not she's only concerned. I'm sure she's concerned that she was being filmed. We'll give that. But she's what seems to be more concerned about what's going to be on the tape rather than my privacy was violated. It's like, well, you also cheated, so that's also a big concern you have, is that someone's going to find that out. And so then we see that this person is still watching them, and there's a bunch of other cameras around the property. So this is when we realize it's for sure not Taylor, it's someone else, but who is it? The person goes into the bathroom and basically smothers Taylor. Michelle's like, we need to call the police and an ambulance, he's alive, but we can't just, leave him like that. Josh is like, that's fine, call them. He's like, I don't think I did anything wrong. I thought I thought he was trying to fight her. I was just, sticking up for her, self-defense type argument. And Charlie goes to check on Taylor while Michelle goes to call the police. Josh tells Mina that he was just trying to protect her. And while Michelle's getting her phone, Charlie runs in and tells her that Taylor stopped breathing. She confirms that he's dead, and Josh is freaking out and confused and scared. He's like, I hit him, but how could he have died from just that? That's not, which I think, he's validly he just found out that supposedly he killed a guy, even though he didn't, but that's not how it's gonna look to the cops. So Charlie's like, we can't call the police because Josh is gonna go back to jail, and I'm not gonna do that to my baby brother. And it's like, I still feel like you're just trying to cover your own ass, but that's just me. Charlie's like, well, we could get rid of the body. We can act like it was an accident. And Michelle's like, what is wrong with you? What are you even saying? Mina asks about the footage. She said the receiver's probably somewhere in the house because those wireless cameras don't have that much of a range. Michelle's freaking out. She's like, I don't want to do this. I don't want any part of this. Michelle goes to her room, and the others take Taylor out back to try and dump him over the cliff in the backyard. He doesn't fall in the ocean, but on this rocky, this mini cliff below type of deal. So they're throwing rocks down to try and knock his body free, which I was like, I don't think physics works like that, but okay. So Josh actually ends up climbing down to push him into the water, and he actually almost falls off the cliff himself. Michelle's packing her bag because she wants out of there. She's like, I'm done, I can't do this. And then she hears the shower start, so she's walking from bathroom to bathroom, turning off the water, but as soon as she turns it on again, she would hear another faucet turn on somewhere in the house. She goes up into the loft and sees a TV playing the tape of Mina and Charlie. She's hurt and upset, totally natural, and at this point Josh is climbing back up and they all go back up to the house, but someone is following them. This is when we get the good scene of everyone walking towards the camera, and then we see the figure in the back, and then the music gets all intense and you're like, oh shit. So as they're coming back up to the house and kind of walking around the front to deal with Taylor's car, Michelle's leaving in the car. She tells Charlie that she saw the tape, and he tries to apologize, and she just drives off, which is, again, fair. Josh runs up and is like, where's she going? What happened? And Charlie's like, we just need to find the footage. She just couldn't hack it anymore. We'll figure it out. Don't worry about her. She's done. She's had it, which is totally fair. Michelle's driving and basically loses, one of her tires, or I don't know if it's one or multiple, but she ends up crashing the car, and then she just starts crying, which is fair. It's been an intense night. She's on ecstasy. I can't even imagine. She gets out and she finds a spike strip laid out across the road. She gets in the car and she messages Charlie. She's like, hey, I'm just down the road. I crashed the car. I need help. And so he goes after her. He gets to the car. It doesn't seem like it's that far because he runs the whole way. So she's maybe a mile or two down the road. I don't think she's that far. But she's not in the car once he gets there. He calls her and he hears her phone, but he finds her dead, and then he gets attacked as well. Josh and Mina are trying to open the padlock door under the house, and Josh finally just decides to break the handle after not being able to guess the code, which I feel like is fair. There's really nothing super interesting in the room, And then Josh finds these like Polaroid pictures and we never really see what they are, but he says they're not important. Josh kind of breaks down at this moment and he feels like he dragged Mina into everything. He's like, I just feel like a piece of shit and like you're so much better than I am and all this stuff. And Mina just gives him a hug. Then Josh asks if he can kind of have a moment to himself, and Mina goes inside to kind of give him that little bit of time. His phone buzzes and it's a message from Charlie containing a conversation between him and Mina when Josh and Michelle were hiking. Kind of that conversation of like this, like that can't happen again and that was a mistake. And so it's just the audio, it's not the video. So Josh goes up and shows Mina and asks her like what the whole conversation was about. And then another video comes in and it's the video from the shower. At this point, Josh knows that Mina and his brother slept together. And so you hear a door slam from downstairs and Josh assumes that it's Charlie. And he's like, dude, I'm gonna fucking kill you. Like, are you serious? And he's yelling. And now we see other camera footage of Josh looking for Charlie in the house. The killer has so many cameras, at least 12 from what we can see. Because you can see there's like cam 1 at the bottom and like cam 4 and cam 8 and cam 12. So he has at least 12 cameras. And Josh is looking for Charlie, and then he opens this like closet door because he thinks he like might be hiding in there, and he gets hit in the head by the killer. So Mina comes down and sees Josh is down on the ground. The killer comes out of the closet in this like really creepy like old man mask is all I can describe. Like it just like it looks just like wrinkly old skin, and it's like there's like no hair on it, or it's super creepy. The killer goes after Mina, but she's super smart. She runs upstairs and then she throws her shoe off the balcony so so you can see it from the balcony. So it looks like she escaped down and went like down and is in the backyard. So the killer sees that and then goes down the stairs to find her in the backyard. But she's actually still hiding in that room. It's a brilliant plan. So she passes Josh's body, and as she gets outside, the killer grabs her, they fight, and she stabs him with this, like, screwdriver, and he casually pulls it, like, she, like, stabs his cheek, and he just, like, pulls it out like it's nothing. So then he starts to chase her, and so she's running now through, like, the wooded area by the house, and it's really dark, it's foggy, she's hiding behind a tree, and then she runs for it again. But as she's running, she keeps looking behind her, which is fair, but when it's foggy and you're next to a cliff, probably not the best plan of attack. Because as she's looking behind her, she ends up running right off the cliff into the rocky ocean below. The killer returns to clean up the mess and take his cameras and things with him. The cameras were hidden in like the showers, the light switches, plants, even the smoke alarm. We see the killer in the bathroom and he takes off his mask, but it's amazing and it was such a great like smart move on Dave Franco's part, or whoever's idea this was. We never get like a full-on view of the killer's face. Like we see like maybe part of a side profile or like the back of his head, but we never get a good look at his face. So now it's the next morning, the sun's starting to come up, there's some light in the house. We see Reggie come back in, which is great. It always makes me happy when I see that the dog survived. It seems like the killer's going to leave him alone, like he kind of puts his hand down like he's going to pet him, and Reggie's kind of like, I don't think I like you, and Reggie just leaves. So I like to imagine that Reggie was adopted by a very loving family after his owner got whacked in the head with a hammer. So the killer leaves, and Reggie goes back outside, and next we see the killer is getting comfy at another home rental, making copies of the key and setting up all his recording devices and cameras, and it ends with him watching other groups of people in the next rental unit until he finds his next target. And that is 2020's The Rental. It's such a good one. It's super spooky if you're planning on going on vacation and renting an Airbnb, or I think Verbo's the new like big one, or one of the newer ones. So always a good time. Watch out for any cameras or things when you're on vacation, because definitely scary. Like, and I think that there's just creepy people out there, which is also terrifying, because it's like, while this seems outlandish, it's like, it's really not, because there's just creeps. So stay safe when you're traveling anytime. And maybe don't do ecstasy in a place you're unfamiliar. Also possibly another pro tip. But yeah, I hope that you liked this week's episode. It was such a fun one to do. This one currently is on Netflix. If you're, It is right now June 2022, so if you're listening to this when it comes out, I definitely would give it a watch because it's a pretty good one. Good acting. I like the kind of intricate relationships between all the characters and how that all plays out. It adds a really cool layer of just like uncomfortability and tension. So good job to the story writers, Dave, Joe, and Mike. I think y'all did great. I think, for this being Dave Franco's first time directing a film, I think he did absolutely amazing. There's some really cool shots, like I mentioned, in the film, and yeah, I think he did a marvelous job. So I'm excited to possibly see a sequel for this one, or would love to see him do some more horror stuff because I thought it was really good. But yeah, I hope you liked today's episode. If you did, please give us a like and a rating on Apple Podcast or wherever you listen. That would be awesome. Would greatly appreciate it. And if you want to see more of what's going on with Megan's Murder Movies, you can follow us on socials. We are on Twitter and Instagram under M Murder Movies. So that's M as in massacre, Murder Movies. I hope you have a great week or weekend whenever you're listening to this. And remember to stay safe and stay spooky.